gubernatorial candidate. You have all these talk show hosts saying you're the devil if you question anything in or around 9/11 when we have 6 of the 10 9/11 commissioners coming out and saying we need a new investigation. Go ahead.
Well, I'm with you on that, and I think that's right there should be the beginning and end of it. If the 9/11 commissioners themselves, and I heard this on the news today talking about some of these, there's apparently a belief now by a lot of the 9/11 commissioners that the report is speculative at best. So if you're putting out speculation as policy, then there's something dreadfully wrong. I mean, come on, Alex, that's wrong. So I think that should be the beginning and end of it right there. That should be the place where everything starts and ends regarding the justification for a new investigation.
So it's not wrong to call for a new investigation?
No, not at all. And especially since the investigators themselves, the commissioners have said that, we didn't go as far as we probably could or should have. Now, with that said, I think, if you want to talk about able danger, there's a book out, and this is one of those things I rail at when people say, well, the IG report, this, that, and the other about able danger. The IG report talks about the fact that Atah's name was found in a database. It's not, people don't bother to read the report. They read the summary and say there's no evidence, but they don't bother to read the body where they say, well, yeah, we actually did find Atah's name. It was an Army database. So I always rail when people say, well, the able danger report refuted what Shaffer said. No, it did the opposite. It's just people never covered it. And I cite for you, Alex, something that everybody can pick up. They can go to Amazon and pick it up right now. And I don't have any investment. I don't know the guy who wrote it. Doug Stanton wrote a book called Horse Soldiers. And on page 24 of that book, and your listeners can go look at it right now, go on Amazon, there is a page in there about Jeffrey Lambert, Major General Jeffrey Lambert, who, by the way, was the operations officer at SOCOM when I was involved with Able Danger. Major General Lambert admits on the day of 9/11, his thinking was, oh, my God, I know who did this. It was Al-Qaeda, and I know the guy who did it. I know Atah because I was briefed on him a year before. And that's in the book. So, you got to ask yourself, how is it the DOD IG failed to interview Major General Jeffrey Lambert, and now here he is, years later, the book came out, I guess, January of last year. How is it now he's admitting this? And did he not get the memo to keep his mouth shut? Did he just not get contacted by the IG? So with that fact alone, Alex, I think that justifies a new investigation of Able Danger. Would you not agree with me on that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you got a major figure in Able Danger now admitting, yeah, we knew about Atah. It was part of the special project doing data mining. So to me, this is patently obvious that someone either missed a clue or, in my judgment, they purposely avoided getting the clue. I mean, if you're not going to hunt for zebras in the Antarctic, and that's what they were doing on the Able Danger investigation. Anywhere we told them to look, they'd look somewhere else or change the questioning. So if they did that with my issue, Alex, what have they done in other areas? You got to ask that question.
Well, at a certain point, it's clear that this is not just screw-ups, and you've chalked some of it up to turf battles. The CIA wanted its own private merc armies, Blackwater and others. They didn't want the Army shining. They wanted to move to this more mercenary model, but it's more than that. I mean, they got their police state. They got their new wars. They got their naked body scanners. They got their Patriot Act, which they now use against the general public. They've now got bills introduced, dissenters to be detained as enemy belligerents, U.S. citizens. I have the bill here. It says, for any intelligence gathering or such other matters as the president considers appropriate. They're killing America on the altar of the Al-Qaeda boogeyman when this thing grew out of what the CIA set up in 1979 to the 1980s in the Mujahideen. And it's just every door open to the terrorist, every door they're protected. Bottom line here, this looks like a staged event to me. Then we can debate, well, how much of it's staged or to what extent?
Well, I think, Alex, your listeners need to take a hard look at what's going on, and they need to obviously pressure their representatives, because this is the one question I would ask them to think about. If we've done, and as you said, these things are not new. These have been in the process of being implemented. People have had time to get used to them. The law enforcement intelligence community has these tools available to them. How is it then the underwear bomber got so close to launching? As a matter of fact, had he not technically failed to ignite the weapon, it would have been a touchdown. So you got to ask yourself, with all of these new laws, How is it we had a near miss? How is it? I mean, think about it. The intelligence community has gotten everything it can, and for example, Mr. Brennan, the special advisor to the president regarding terrorism, he talks about 20% recidivism as being okay. And now the number 2 guy in the Taliban in Pakistan who picked up where Badr left off is one of the guys who were released from Guantanamo. So is 20% recidivism okay? So, again, you've got to ask yourself, what are we doing as a government with these enhanced laws, with these enhanced abilities of the intelligence community? Because to me, if you're having near misses after all these enhancements, something's wrong. And you got to, again, if you've been given everything you want and you still aren't producing, that means, like you pointed out, somewhere we missed something in the early investigations. I argue the 9/11 Commission not only got it wrong, they didn't get to the nub of what was really wrong at all. And this is where I think we've got to go back to that fundamental beginning, the 9/11 attacks, to look at that and then make an assessment of what actually went wrong, because they never placed blame. And I think, Alex, they need to go back and place blame. And frankly, I'm due some of that blame because I didn't scream as much as I should have regarding the fact that we identified these guys and we're trying to get the FBI the information. And I testify to that fact that I feel horrible about the fact that I was not, out of all the things I've made, decisions about in my life, that was not.
But Colonel Shaffer, you at least tried to stop it. I don't think you have any blame here. Instead, we saw the FBI commanders that blocked their agents from stopping people at the flight schools when they specifically said we believe they're training in Arizona, Minnesota, Oklahoma to fly planes into buildings. They got demoted, and the agents that blocked them got record cash bonuses. Here's DetroitNews.com. Terror suspect kept visa to avoid tipping off larger investigation. So we know they were tracking him. We know his father warned them. We know all this was going on. I mean, this is just absolutely staged out in the open, and we know that this threat of terror is being used to clamp down on the American people. And so you are calling for a new 9/11 investigation here, and that's good. I mean, who would investigate it? Because it's the same corrupt politicians every time that have a incentive to want to cover up what the system's done in the past. I mean, who investigates it? State grand juries? Who?
Well, I think you've got to find someone of somewhere getting out of the politics and doing it. And frankly, the 9/11 Commission was made up of people who all had background and agendas almost contrary to the good interest of the country, trying to get to the bottom. So you got to find people who have two things. First off, the skill set to understand what they're looking at. I argue half the 9/11 staff did not understand the importance of certain things that were brought to them, and I would cite Able Danger as one. Secondly, you got to have people who do not have political agendas, and frankly, it's hard to find, but not impossible. This is where one of those things, if there is a will to have someone allow a selection process to go through, a vetting process to go through, you could find the right people. You could find people who would do a credible job of telling the truth, but that process itself would be painful. It'd probably take about, probably a year to get the right people selected, but simply because it's tough to do, there's no reason to not do it.
So we need the people to continue investigating and lawsuits and other things. In closing, Colonel Shaffer, and we appreciate your time here and your courage to come on and talk about these issues. They're vetting your book right now in national security. It's coming out, I guess, in the next few months, hopefully.
The date is 31 August. We get the published date is 31 August.
Okay, so coming up in August, we'll have you back then. We appreciate your time. How much are they going to allow you to put in there that the public hasn't known so far? Can you give us any tidbits of stuff that's been vetted and that you're allowed to release?
Well, I guess the one thing I can talk about in good detail is the fact that there's an entire chapter devoted to my initial conversations with Philip Zelikow at Bagram. This is not something I was able to go into for any number of reasons when I testified, and I pretty much go through the entire, verbatim what happened. And so, it is from my recollection. You have to remember that. And I go through and provide the detail. The other thing I think is going to be notable about the book is it wasn't just me talking. We had collaboration and support from other members who were deployed with me. So when you read the book, you'll have to understand it's been vetted not only by, a security review, but the folks who are actually there with me have participated in helping write the book. So,
and we're going to get a bird's eye view into how you were specifically blocked from taking out Al-Qaeda before the attacks.
Well, don't forget, this is only the introduction of Able Danger. It's not going to be a teaser, but this covers my deployment to Afghanistan in 03 and 04 and where the disclosure made. Basically, the thing that came after in 05 and 06 is an entirely different story. But this actually talks about in great detail my protected disclosure to Phil Zelikow and what happened to me when they tried to shut me up.
And it covers Stratus Ivy, correct?
It touches upon that a little bit. As a matter of fact, Stratus Ivy is brought up in greater detail. As a matter of fact, it's one of the new things. There's a little bit more detail on Stratus Ivy that looks like they'll be able to read about in the book.
But bottom line, Colonel Shaffer,